Welcome back once again to the Pitlane Pals Formula 1 podcast. In this episode, we're going to be recapping the Monaco Grand Prix, and what a fucking weird one it was. What a weird race it was.
True.
I don't know. There was 3 races on Sunday in motorsport. There was Monaco, the Indy 500, and the Coke 600 for NASCAR. And somehow, the only one that actually was just like produced a normal good race, unfortunately, it pains me to say this, was NASCAR, from what I'm gathering. I didn't watch it, but I heard it was very good.
I was about to
people
say,
were complaining about Indy. No, people were complaining about Indy though, which I did watch because the ending was a little weird. But we're a Formula 1 podcast. I'm not going to get too much into it, but it was weird. And Monaco was weird throughout. It's always a bit of a snooze fest. It's always a bit of a debate of, does Monaco still belong on the calendar?
True.
It more and more seems like no, but I'm always in favor of, I don't want to get rid of it. Personally, I'll keep it for the tradition's sake. I'm a big traditionalist, so we'll keep it.
Right.
But I do think.
Right.
Well, I won't start. No, I will start with this. The big talk of the race was the rule change. They were forcing 2 pit stops for every driver on every team, and it kind of just ended up making the race a very weird strategy game that everybody was playing, where most teams, whoever was in front of the 2 drivers, was just assigned with the task of assigned with the task of holding up the other drivers, and so that the driver in front could get a free pit stop or 2. The best example of this was Isaac Hadjar and Liam Lawson playing the strategy game, which they nailed, by the way. Liam Lawson held up like 5 cars behind him for like several laps for Isaac Hadjar to take his hard tires off, put on the softs, and then put on the hards again before losing a single position. I think only one position maybe. But the other driver in front of him still hadn't hit his 2 pit stops. So he ended up finishing P6, which stellar performance for Isaac.
And Lawson
Hadjar,
actually
who continues
P8
to impress. Yeah,
Lawson
which is
P8.
crazy. They managed to do that. They managed to do that, and still both drivers benefited and scored on the points, which was just a strategy masterclass. And for anybody who's really into strategy, great. But it was weird. It wasn't racing. We weren't going racing. James Vowles actually came on the radio on the Sky Sports broadcast and basically said, this is not how we like to go racing, but this is how we have to do it given the cards we were dealt, you know. It's not fun to race in a way where you're just assigned with going super slow intentionally. This is supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport. And what we were watching out there was cars running at 80% of their full speed of what they could do around Monaco. And it just felt disappointing to say the least.
I'm going to be honest here. I think I'd cut them some slack. I feel like the 2-stop idea, having the cars do 3 different sets of tires, coming in twice, was a great idea.
I agree. I agree.
We talked
about it before.
For trying to solve the situation in Monaco of it being too boring, of not much happening, I thought, okay, this is a good idea. This might actually do pretty well. The one thing that they sadly missed, though, and that's just something, it's a characteristic of Monaco which you just can't get rid of. It's not something you can really change, and it's not something that's going to be changed with doing 2 stops, for example, is the fact that you can't overtake. You cannot overtake on this track. Yeah. And then with the 2-stop situation coming in, I wasn't thinking, okay, these cars are going to be holding each other up. But watching that race, it was like really, really weird because people were going extra slow, for example, like Lawson, like you already mentioned, or Albon as well.
Albon. Well, Sainz did it for Albon, and then Albon did it for Sainz.
Yeah, to push
and
out
both,
to push out that gap so the other person can pit. And it's just it's something you don't really see in F1. So it was like
obviously
a
we
weird
see
feeling.
The occasional defensive game, but at that
point,
sure,
but not
there's
like
a skill to it, right? There's a skill to it because you're forced to actually have to defend. There's no defending at Monaco. There's one straight where you could possibly get by, or you could get past the chicane after the tunnel a little bit. We actually saw the only overtake on track be made there by Lance Stroll of all people. And yeah, it's all you have to do, and we saw this when Leclerc was trying to come at Norris at the end of the race, is save your energy, deploy your ERS down the straight, and cover any possible overtaking by moving like 2 inches to the left or right. And that's it. That's it. And it's way too easy to defend. Usually, like, we can look back at 2021, right? Where throughout the year we were watching Perez do defending master classes for Verstappen on several instances where we were calling him the Mexican Minister of Defense.
True.
No, because those performances, right, that is fine to do. But in Monaco, they're not even racing. They can't even get by. They're just stuck. They're just stuck no matter what they want to do. Exactly. Which is why we see the Mercedes at one point of George Russell go, fuck it, I'll take the 5 seconds and cut the corner and just get past Albon just to end up getting a drive-through penalty, which, by the way, was totally deserved.
100%. I was hoping they would not give him like just 5 seconds for that.
Because that would be, everybody would start flying by. Everybody would start
It would have been absolute mayhem. But like, looking back, and this was also talked about in the driver debrief, right? They asked the drivers, okay, what should we do? And Russell gave a funny response, being like, add a button to your wheel so you can like randomly deploy some sprinklers on the track. But
banana peels.
Yeah, but banana peels were also mentioned. At the end of the day, if they're not gonna change the Monaco layout to make it somehow better to overtake, like have like one section where it's actually possible for these cars to overtake, which is also very difficult to make that happen in Monaco, and it's gonna kind of ruin the history of it. There's no way of solving this issue. They can't. It's not going to be possible. And I actually say this, even if the cars were lighter, smaller, and more racy, it's you can't overtake. You cannot overtake, and you can actually see this through the other categories. F2 was the same thing. F3 was the same thing. Just not much really going on. I mean, F2, the opening lap was insane. Absolutely insane.
Craziest thing I've seen in motorsport all year. That was insane.
What a pileup. What an absolute pileup. Ridiculous.
Yeah, that was insane. That was ridiculous. I have no idea. These are supposed to be the second best category of drivers, or the best junior drivers in motorsport. And that was embarrassing, to say the least. I don't know how that... I mean, I know how it happened. I saw it, but I'm still like, whoa, what the fuck? Yeah. I think what we saw on Sunday from Monaco was nothing short of a minor embarrassment for Formula One. On a weekend where it's considered, the biggest weekend in motorsport because the Indy 500 also takes place, and 2 of the Triple Crown events take place on the same day. And a lot of people are watching that don't typically even watch Formula One. And I think the attempt was great. The execution was definitely embarrassing. I'm happy they tried something. But I think there's a couple things we need to reconsider. You think either you get rid of it as a rule or you adjust it. And I think what you could maybe do is make them have to make certain pit stops by certain laps. Like they have to make the first pit stop by lap 20, for example, or something, so that cars can't just sit out there and hold up forever. I don't know if that fixes it, but it might make it better. Or honestly, you start penalizing, you write something into the rules where you start penalizing at Monaco specifically for intentionally going slow.
Yeah, but then it's like, what's intentionally going slow? Yes, okay, checking the inputs and then saying, okay, you shouldn't be going off the throttle there. Okay, I was just managing something like that. So like, it's
true. It is hard to debate that. Yeah,
it's difficult. At what cost is it managing? At what cost is it I'm extra going slow to hold these cars up?
So do we just leave Monaco on the calendar as a race that we just kind of know is going to be boring, but the qualifying is great, and leave it at that? To me, that's fine. But I think you can't do this funky weird shit with the rule. I think the rule has to go because I think it made it worse.
Yeah.
It made it gimmicky.
Yeah. It made it gimmicky. It made it worse in a different way.
Yeah. And while I think there was maybe more to look at and more going on, because of it, but it was more just confusion. Now we're just going to go into next year with the same rules and be like, oh, well, this is what's going to happen again, and it's not going to be that weird or confusing. We're not going to be talking about this weird thing where we're going to be like, oh, yep, that's Monaco now, and that's going to become the new standard. So I don't think it's a permanent solution. I don't think it worked that well. You can debate that Monaco doesn't belong anymore.
Yeah.
But I think it's hard to say. I really like traditional tracks, but we have seen a lot of track. Like I say the same thing about Spain. Spain sucks. It's better than Monaco.
Terrible. It's terrible.
Spain's terrible. We're gonna be watching an absolute
quality and
snooze
race
fest. Yeah, we're gonna be watching an absolute snooze fest next weekend. But at least you can overtake. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of.
Better than.
But
Monaco,
with the modern cars,
sure.
it's aged poorly. And then I think it comes to this conversation, this greater conversation of, okay, if we're going to be getting rid of so many historical tracks because they don't work anymore, let's replace them with tracks that really do and not bullshit like we've been doing. I don't want to get rid of the Spain GP for the Madrid street race.
Oh, I 100% agree.
I
don't know why that's like the attempt. Okay, get Hockenheim back in.
Right. Let's go get fucking Vietnam back in.
Nürburgring, Germany. Please.
Nürburgring would be controversial. We might see some people dying out there.
No, the GP track, mate, not the Nordschleife.
I thought you were trying to fucking... I'm like, do you want to see people dying out there, dude?
No, not the Nordschleife. We're talking about the GP track.
Okay. Yeah.
Jesus.
But I'd rather see Hockenheim.
Oh,
I think it works better for Formula One.
I 100% agree, but the issue is...
I think the Nürburgring is the most beautiful track of all time, but...
This is the thing about F1. This is why that's not going to happen. F1 is a bit like a circus, which the tracks pay for, right? The circuits pay for F1 to come to these tracks.
Right.
And Hockenheim, I don't know where I found out about this. It was a while back, but there were no longer any races held at Hockenheim because the tracks were not able to make enough money for them to cover the costs of getting F1 in. And that's why
it's shitty though, because if we weren't so focused on money when they're already a multi-billion-dollar corporation, F1 could just be like, hey, we'll come race there. Make it affordable for you. We'll help support the cause. Or like,
sure.
I think the German nation would want to support a race in Germany.
100%.
Motorsport's huge in Germany.
100%. I'll do you one worse. Guess which track does not pay for F1 to race there?
Vegas.
Monaco.
Oh, right. I knew that. Yeah. It's the only track that doesn't do that.
Yeah. You knew that.
No, I did know that. I just forgot. I thought we were getting to something worse. Because I thought we were like, oh, well, Monaco, Vegas is like very controversial when it was added. But no, I did know, Monaco does not pay. They're the only exception to that because
so that one track,
Formula One,
the one track where we're struggling a lot with getting actual good racing, which was an absolute embarrassment this week, does not pay for F1 to come there. And there are several racetracks where there could be incredible races. Hockenheim would be beautiful. Honestly, Hockenheim would be absolutely beautiful. The track is pretty much perfect for F1 cars.
Yeah, and I think look at all the new tracks we had, right? They're all street races. Miami sucks. Vegas happens to be good by like pure coincidence. It's very strange.
True.
I don't like that though because it almost pisses me off because it's like that should not have worked out. That should be a bad race that we should all be hating on, but it kind of hits every time.
It really works, yeah.
It works, unfortunately. But Miami sucks. We're going to get this weird Madrid track that kind of sucks. We just keep adding street races, and there is some good street tracks. I think Singapore as a street race is fantastic.
100%.
Think it's a difficult challenge for the drivers. I love that. I love the endurance aspect to it. I think we've seen tracks like here's a track that is not that old and overall, and that is a actual track, an actual circuit, is Austin. Austin's not that old in F1. It's only been running there since the mid-2010s, and it produces fantastic racing every single time. So we're still capable of adding new circuits to the calendar, making new ones, like built ones, new ones that will probably suit the cars. We could do it. We could 100% do it. But for some reason, all we want to do is use the fucking streets that the cars drive on. And that, to me, I think street races and tracks are a great mix, but there should always be more pure actual circuits than street tracks. But
I agree.
it should always be like 80-20 or 70-30 at least on that percentage. And
Yeah.
it feels weird. So if we're going to get rid of races like Monaco, if we're going to go to Belgium only every other year, which feels insane to me, by the way.
Terrible. Absolutely terrible. I love Spa.
Insane. Because Spa doesn't even produce. I mean, it hasn't been the greatest recently, but it's still okay. Like it's not. We're not talking like it's awful. And we're gonna get that off the calendar every other year. I mean, we're still gonna go, but I know these tracks can't afford it, and the only things that can afford it are street. I get the money behind it, but it sucks because we as fans are losing. We are losing.
Yeah.
The only people that win are the people that are like, oh, I heard there's this new cool street track in Formula One. We should go watch that, or like. And then they make the tickets way too expensive for any actual fan of the sport to afford. This is a very political, economic conversation we're having right now. But I do think it's one of the. I love Formula One. I truly like. People ask me, what's your favorite sport? It always will be Formula One. But it just sucks to see where the sport's going, because I want traditional, classic, good racing, and I also want to see some things with the cars too. I want V8s back in the engines. I don't. At least V8s. I want them to sound louder again. I don't want it to be this. I know it's always been a circus. It's always been a show. But right now, seems like we've lost the caring for the fans that actually like the sport. Sorry, there's a bug on my face. That actually lost the sport. Like their care for, catering towards true fans. And that's unfortunate. But that all tying back to Monaco is, if we're going to get rid of Monaco, I don't want to see it replaced by some bullshit. I want to see it replaced by a worthy circuit that I can be like, okay, good, we're going there instead. And
Amen.
Got this. Yeah, and that's the conclusion. But we should probably talk about the actual race and what it means for the Formula One season. Lando Norris wins and cuts that championship deficit down to 3 points going into Spain this weekend. It's going to be a very big weekend to see. Where that championship battle goes. I do think it's worth noting that currently, as it stands, Max Verstappen's only 25 points off Oscar Piastri. He's just kind of lurking in the distance. And if I'm McLaren, that's scaring me a little bit. It's scaring me a little bit. Now, you're obviously going to win the Constructors. There's no debate there. You're fucking nearly 200 points ahead of everybody else already. But the drivers, you want a driver's champion. You can't have it robbed by Red Bull again. And him lurking in the background would scare me if I was McLaren.
I wouldn't be too worried, right? Because as McLaren, there's not much they can do but turning up every weekend trying to have the best car possible. And they're in a very, very, very comfortable situation right now. They have two drivers that are absolutely performing at a really, really, really great level. Pretty much getting on the podium every single weekend. And they're 1-2 in the drivers, and then on pole in the constructors. So I wouldn't be too worried about Max Verstappen right now, just for now, because it's Max, right? He's gonna deliver every weekend. He's gonna do well pretty much every single weekend, and not as well as Lando or Oscar. On some weekends he will, but he'll always be there. He'll always be in the background. He's always going to be lurking. And I mean, at some point, if I hope that the season doesn't go that way, but if we have Lando and Oscar now getting into proper fights with each other, with one another, and they start crashing like Hamilton and Rosberg did, he might have a chance. Or if the cars start dropping off, he's going to be outperforming them, it might actually get interesting in there.
I think in McLaren's position, they're in a very good position with their driver relationship.
Oh yeah,
Oscar and Lando have a lot of mutual respect for each other. I think both of them think each other are very good competitors, and every time we've seen them get close together, they're typically very respectful of one another's space. So I think for most of the season, we should see it to be that. Now, if it's coming down to the wire, we might see some lunges be made that maybe shouldn't be made. But I do think when it comes down to it, they both know that they're on the same field right now when it comes to, in the eyes of Zach Brown and the eyes of Andrea Stella.
Oh, for sure.
And they have to both please McLaren, right? They have to abide by papaya rules. Jesus. They have to abide by papaya rules when they're fighting one another. And I think they know that. And I don't think they want to be the first one to bite the bullet and make it worse than that, because I don't think McLaren would respond well to that. I don't think they want the PR issue. I don't think Lando needs the PR issue on his end. And I don't think Oscar is a very hot-headed person. I think they should be good in that regard for most of the season. It'll just be interesting to see when we're coming down to, let's say, whoever wins in Abu Dhabi wins the championship, which could fully happen, right? I mean, we're going to keep seeing them nick races off one another like this, Now, Oscar definitely has had a better start to the year, but Lando's still only 3 points behind because I think what I've noticed is when Oscar wins, Lando's second.
Yep.
When Lando wins, Oscar's been a little further back. Or if Lando has a better race, Oscar's usually just further back than Lando was. So I think because Lando's very good at damage limitation. And so even if he has a bad qualifying, he's going to make his way back up because he just has that pace.
I would even say with a bad quality, I'd say a normal Lando Norris race is bottling the start and then kind of catching up throughout the race.
Getting into a wheel-to-wheel contact with Max Verstappen into turn 1, and Max runs away with the lead while he's running off the track, and then, so stuff like that. But because I think this has become the general consensus among a lot of fans, and I think we agree. Lando has quicker pace. Oscar is better mentally and more composed, so Oscar handles the pressure better, absolutely. But Lando definitely has quicker pace, and some of that might come from experience. Lando knows how to drive with a shitty car.
True.
So he can drive with a good car. I think that is where a lot of that comes from. Now, Oscar's obviously been very impressive with significantly less experience and has tied Lando on race wins very early into his career. Now, again, it's important to note that Lando didn't have a race-winning car for most of his career and was pulling a lot more out of a poor car than he should have been. So it's not like he's always been competitive in this regard. They basically have had a competitive car for the same amount of time. They've had the equal amount of opportunities to win races, really. Besides a couple instances where Lando should have won in Russia 2021.
Don't remind me, please. Just I just have PTSD from that
race. But yes, I think again we'll talk about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it every weekend till the end of the year, where the championship battle's at. But I really just want it to be close. I don't want somebody to run away with it. So I like seeing that Lando was able to keep it close this weekend, bring it back with a huge confidence boost, winning one of the most historical races in the sport. Even if you can debate whether it's what it used to be or not, it's still Monaco. That's still a huge confidence boost for McLaren. And that qualifying lap was pristine.
New lap record.
That's cool. It's going to be a cool feeling to hold a lap record in Monaco.
That's sick. And it's also like because Leclerc was actually the only person in all practice sessions. He drove a 1.9 in the last one. In the very, very last practice session, Leclerc pulled the only 1.9 of that weekend so far. And I was watching with my family. And I was at a mate's house, and I actually even told him, I was like, in Q3, it's going to be interesting if they're able to pull out another 1.9. And no one did it other than Norris in qualifying. And his last sector actually was a yellow sector, so he didn't even improve in the last sector. So there would have been more in it, but it was just an insane lap. Like that lap was incredible, and for him to do it in Monaco, such a difficult track, such a tight track where errors are very, very easily penalized, it's incredible. And then also in the race, because I saw a lot of takes on this being like, best car of the weekend being the McLaren and best driver of the weekend being Leclerc. Lando was stuck behind Max for a while. And then when you look at the lap times of his last 5 laps, he drove the quickest lap time of the whole race in the last one.
In the last lap. The moment Max pit, it was definitely a statement, and I don't think a lot of drivers do that besides Norris. And you can judge whether you like that about him or not. I personally do. Because he knows... He even said that he actually got off social media. I think that's part of the reason he had a good performance this weekend, was just able to get out of his head. He gets a lot of hate. And
he does,
some of it absolutely his fault. I think what he does, and we talked about this a lot, but he's sometimes really cocky and then doesn't back it up. And that's one thing. And I don't think people like. It's like Max Verstappen can be cocky, like we talked about last episode, and nobody would care because he's Max Verstappen. But then at the other end of the spectrum, he comes off very mopey and sad whenever he doesn't do well, and I don't think that works well either in people's eyes sometimes. And I don't think it rubs people the wrong way.
So it rubs them the wrong way in the form of, because he was fake cocky, him then being
Yes.
sad is a good thing for them.
Yes. And so
Yeah.
I think where I'm going with this is just that because of that, he obviously knows, he sees a lot of the comments people make. So I think when he's going to see people being like, oh, look, Leclerc almost got him and he was in a significantly worse machinery, right? He had to make that point of, no, let me put in the fastest lap really quick now that Max is out of my way. I was just backing up so I didn't run into Max or something. Like, that was clearly what he was doing, and he knew he was going to see comments about that, so instantly went out there and just put the fastest lap in just to shut that up, and I really liked that. Because I think this is an interesting thing I think I've really noticed this weekend more than ever. Oscar wins. Oscar has pole position, whatever it may be. Oscar's a fantastic driver.
Yeah.
Praise Oscar to the moon and back.
Yeah.
Lando does the same in the same car, and it's, oh, that car's so good. If Leclerc or Hamilton was in it, they'd be pulling out way better times. They'd be dominating this race. And do I get the comparison between Oscar and Lando, that Lando has a lot more experience? Should he be doing better against Oscar? Yes, probably. But Oscar's also just very talented. And that's fine. That's fine. That's a different conversation. But to discredit everything Lando does by the car and then praise Oscar like he's the second coming of Jesus when he has the same car and does the same things, that feels wrong to me. That feels unfair. And that's what I've noticed a lot this weekend, because we haven't seen Lando win since the first race of the season. And we've been seeing Oscar win these last, several Grand Prix now. It was a totally different reaction to him getting pole position specifically. Totally different reaction. Totally different. And I think a lot of it is people don't like that Lando's the one beating Leclerc. And stuff like that. There's a lot of Leclerc fans out there that don't like it. And I'm not going to spend too much time talking about people. I mean, people are always going to be stupid. And people are, I don't want to say stupid. People are always going to be, passionate fans. And they're going to have their biased opinions. And that's fine.
Yeah, and that's okay.
That's fine. I just think we need to mutually respect both drivers, because both Oscar and Lando are having great seasons. And it's not just the car. It's not, it's not like we're talking, honestly, like 2019, 2020 Mercedes.
No.
Even. I don't even think the gap's that big.
No.
I think the gap is big. And don't get me wrong, do I think Hamilton's would, kill it in a McLaren? Absolutely. But that doesn't discredit what they're doing either, because they also just have a very, very killer driver lineup. And we all knew that before the car was even good. So I don't like that discourse. It pisses me off sometimes. It's like, I just think we need to give credit where it's due. And I'm not saying Lando drove the best race we've ever seen or defending masterclass. It's Monaco. All he had to do was stay in front. But he did everything he needed to do perfectly. He got a magnificent qualifying lap. Give him the flowers he deserves.
Not the flowers again. Not
the flowers again.
Flowers.
But I think we should move on. Briefly.
Yeah, we should definitely move on. We should
have a
kind
couple
of
things to cover.
Brush up. Should we talk about the racing balls real quick? We kind of mentioned them at the beginning.
Yeah, I mean, if you have something to say, I think I kind of covered what I wanted to say about it. But
I just say, great performance from both of them. Amazing teammate chemistry between Lawson and Hadjar in general. I feel like this was a great showing for Lawson, because I feel like he's been a bit of a PR nightmare with the way he came into F1. Yeah. So I think this is a great showing, especially him also performing, getting some points on the board. That was definitely great for him, and yeah, that's pretty much all I had to say. I just wanted to say that it's a good weekend for Lawson, and
it shouldn't go unnoted, because he's had a rough season. He's had a very, very rough year, so I'm happy he got some points. I want to talk about the Ferraris. Specifically, now they had a great weekend overall. Right. I think obviously Leclerc wanted that back-to-back Monaco victory that he didn't get, so he was a little disappointed. But Hamilton gets the grid pace penalty, makes his back up to P5, whatever. It's okay. It's a bounce-back weekend from... I mean, they did score points in Imola, but they had a rough qualifying in Imola. They had a decent qualifying in Monaco and did an okay drive. But at the end of the race, Lewis came on the radio and asked his engineer if he was upset with him or something. I seriously cannot... Lewis needs a new engineer. They do not get along.
And
Lewis has been fed up with him all year.
Yeah.
And I think I'm going to say I do agree that sometimes the drivers probably lash out at their engineers when they aren't supposed to. But that's kind of their job. they're kind of dealing with being the only person, a guy going at 200 miles per hour down a racetrack with adrenaline pumping through his body, can talk to. It's the only person. And that's kind of what you sign up for. And if I don't know all the details, that was really the only message I saw, at least. I don't know if there's more to it than that was out there throughout the race. We didn't see a ton of Hamilton on the track during the race. You just kind of saw him on the scoreboard or on the leaderboard. But if there was some weird, because again, Hamilton asked that and didn't get a response. If there is some weird kind of attitude towards Hamilton, I don't really like that from the engineer standpoint. I don't know his name. But I just feel like that's a little like unprofessional. Like it just felt weird.
It's if there would be one team for this to happen,
it's always gonna be Ferrari.
It's always going to be Ferrari. It's always going to be Ferrari. And I get that they probably had Hamilton coming in, and it's like, I mean, the expectations were definitely higher, right? It's not like it has been going the way everyone wanted it to go. But that's just the situation we're in now. And now we have to deal with this. And Lewis himself, I mean, I remember him coming on into in the race and being like, is the gap still over a minute? How is that possible? Like, completely shocked about this massive gap between Hamilton and was it who was in front of Hamilton? Piastri?
Verstappen.
Oh, Verstappen at that point, but no, yeah. And him trying to get the gap down throughout the whole race, and then that radio call situation, it's just like kind of breaks my heart a little bit. I feel bad for the guy.
Yeah, it sucks for Hamilton.
It's just,
I think
it's unnecessary.
Because Hamilton is a guy, we've talked about this before, he's a guy that's just racing through and through, like pure racing blood. Like, that's
100%.
all he cares about. He's got no family, and I'm not dissing him. He just like he loves Formula One. He's never been like much focused. I mean, he's obviously has like his fashion stuff he does, but like other than that, he's very much just head down, like focusing on driving in his life before he retires, you know? And I think we've seen that throughout he loves winning. And I think it sucks to see somebody in this position where he's gone from being so successful to now, because it's like obviously Verstappen's competitive, but like he's made comments. He's like, yeah, I could hang it up at any point. Lewis has never talked about hanging it up, and he's fucking 40. You know what I mean? Like that guy just loves motorsport, and I think it sucks to see where he's at right now. Am I surprised? Not really. I think this is kind of, you leave Ferrari, it kind of just happens. Or you leave for Ferrari, that's kind of what happens. He's older, obviously. He's probably not what he used to be also as a driver, but still, it's Lewis Hamilton. I mean, I don't think he's, supposed to be I mean, granted, P5's a fine finish, but it's just like there's so much stuff around it. It's nasty. It's not pretty. It's not pretty in the Ferrari garage right now. Yeah. Just it felt weird. I didn't like that from the engineer either, to just like ignore it. And who knows what's going on behind the scenes. But as a fan, that's what I see. I see him asking, "Are you upset with me or something?" and then not getting a response. That's very unprofessional. It's ugly. It's not pretty. And if you do have an issue, don't be immature and like not respond like that. Like take it to the behind the scenes stuff. Handle it there. Have a conversation. You guys are supposed to work together, not against each other. So, anyways, just wanted to clear that up. On the other hand, though, Lewis Hamilton's former team, Mercedes, has had the first weekend since 2024 Australia where they hadn't scored any points. Ugly weekend. I mean, we talked about George Russell cutting the corner and doing that intentionally, but overall, they were just stuck. They had a terrible qualifying. They put themselves in that position from the get-go. Ugly, very detrimental. They can't afford to have weekends like that. They're obviously fighting for P2 in the Constructors' Championship. And you can't have weekends like that when you're going against Ferrari, especially when Ferrari had brought home a very, very solid haul of points. Right now we're looking at Mercedes is only 5 points ahead of Ferrari in the Constructors' Championship and 4 ahead of Red Bull. So...
correct me if I'm wrong here, and this could be a wrong source, but I believe I saw something about them forgetting that they had to pit twice.
Is that true?
That's what I'm saying. I wouldn't trust this source. I wouldn't trust this source. Production team's getting on it, but respectfully, I also just don't understand any single strategic decision Mercedes did in Monaco. Like I believe that the strategic team was definitely on a vacation. they probably had like a team meeting in a zoo or so.
It's not true. Not true. But the strategy was done poorly.
Huh?
It's not true, but the strategy was done poorly.
All right, good. Because it would be ridiculous. Like you can't forget that. But either way, it was so weird, and they stayed out for so long, and I just thought, what are you doing? It's like this is something I would do when I'm racing in F1 2020 something on my own career race, and I just forget to pit all the time. I've had races where I was lapping around and forgot like for 20 laps or something, not 20 laps, but like 10 laps or something, that I should have come into pit because I just forgot. But this is a team. This is an F1 team. They're at the track. They have a team of strategic people sitting there. I don't have a team of strategic people behind me when I'm doing my racing stuff. So it's like, what
do you mean? You have Jeff.
Oh my God. Me and Jeff are on a
different
very
guy now.
slippery track.
Yeah.
It's like me and Hamilton. I know it's like the engineer and Hamilton.
Yeah.
That's the relationship I have with Jeff.
Anybody who plays the F1 game knows what we're talking about. Jeff will just come in and give you the most random information, like mid-qualifying lap.
The older ones, he's not Jeff. He's not called Jeff.
It's not Jeff anymore. It's not Jeff anymore. It's
the older ones.
American guy. I don't remember. But yeah, no, it was not pretty in the Mercedes garage at all. Very ugly, I would actually argue. Disappointing. It's just like they've had such a good year up until this point, and to see that was weird. I saw somebody making comments about Kimi Antonelli's performance this weekend, and they said it's time to have some very uncomfortable conversations about the rookies this year and who's the best or whatever. It's like they were hinting at Kimi Antonelli being worse than Behrman and Hadjar. Kimi Antonelli, first of all, is 18 years old.
Yeah, and he's not worse than like
he's
Behrman
doing better.
And Hadjar.
Like,
I don't want way better.
I don't. It was a weird discourse I was seeing. I think specifically from more of a Ferrari fan base, probably.
Yeah, but I feel
conversation.
Like to summarize Mercedes this weekend, there was this one camera segment where they were filming Toto, and I feel like it's a pretty good sum up of the whole situation. You saw it where he was like he was looking away, and then I was looking at the camera like, oh shit, this is not going great.
Yeah. Another thing was Alonso. Poor guy. What an unlucky season Fernando Alonso's had. Finally thinks he's going to bring in his first points of the season. He qualified super well in Monaco, and then his car breaks. He's just had the worst year. I'm seeing Stroll discourse like I've never seen before. Like,
true.
Let's note really quick. This isn't because Lance Stroll is cooking Fernando Alonso. Alonso has just had a awfully unlucky season. Is it time for him to hang it up? Probably, but I don't think he will because I think he wants to see the Adrian Newey car they build for 2026. But just across the board, unfortunate season for him. I know he's so tired. He's so tired of it. He's got to be so tired of it.
He's so tired of it. I mean, recently, just recently, he came on talking about how the cars are just also kind of shit now. Like he compared them to older cars he was able to drive, and I mean it's true that the current F1 sport, the way it's going is throughout the whole race you're managing. You're not flat out at any point other than when you're told to push. Most of the time you're coming in and you're managing your tires. And he talked about this, saying back in the day it used to be more flat out pushing and just being able to push these tires through. And now it's just like you gotta put on your fluffy gloves and take care of them.
It's like I don't know, obviously, the technological side of the sport, and I don't know what goes into making new regulations, but it just feels like nobody's winning with the new regulations. The drivers don't like it. The fans don't really like it. The casual fans don't even really like it because they're not as loud as they used to be. Like, there's just nothing that makes them nearly as cool as they used to be. Like, they're also significantly easier to drive, which I'm not a fan of. I think these are the 20 best drivers in the world. We should see them have a hard time driving. I want to see them fighting the car. You know what I mean? I want them to be... No, but I think there was a talent. There was a skill. Like, there was a significant different skill to driving an old Formula One car where it was far more dependent on your turning. Now it's much more just your braking point. These things pretty much turn automatically for you nowadays. I mean, you know what I mean? It's like you just don't have to fight the wheel like you used to. It's like a lot of the people talk about like Ayrton Senna, obviously, fantastic driver. Ayrton Senna's driving style doesn't even really succeed anymore in these modern cars because it's completely taken away the ability to do what he was so good at doing. You know what I mean?
He would in these cars driving the way he did, he would be terrible. He'd be spinning every single corner pretty much because he would feather the throttle throughout these corners. But like,
yes,
I mean, I get your point, but we've kind of lost this as we switch from like being from manual shifting to pedal shifting, because that's when it started going wrong.
I'm fine with automatic shifting, but I think there was a good era of automatic shifting also. Early, before we went to the V6.
I agree.
You know,
I mean,
those were good cars too. Those were good cars too. I don't even necessarily like manual shifting in Formula One as much as some people do, and maybe that's very like young of me to say. There's probably some old people out there who, you know, old F1 fans have been watching the sport for years who just hate that they don't have to gear shift anymore, or you know, with actual.
Back in my days, we had to do this with the foot.
Yeah. I think is a motorsport class for that type of stuff. You know. Endurance racing specifically. I think that there is a place for that. I don't know if it's in Formula One anymore. I think that I'm fine with it not being that. I don't think these cars need manual shifting. But I think again, throw the quicker engines back in there. Make them a little bit more loose, you know? I think we're so concerned about environmental friendly shit, which I do get, but you're still it's a motorsport. There's not much you can do. Unfortunately, this is a sport that is going to damage the environment.
Make the cars less safe.
No, I don't. I think we have halos, right? I want the halo on the car. We have halos. If they're going to be this big, just make them a little less assisted on the steering. Make them a little bit more loose. I want to see people fight in the car a bit more. Because then I don't think we've seen drivers hit the wall quick. We saw Yuki Tsunoda slam the wall last weekend in Imola, walked away completely fine. I think these cars are built in such a way now to where they're so safe that if they are crashing, I don't think it's that big of a deal. I think a couple crashes now and then is fine. I just want to see these drivers at the top of what they can do, and I don't think these cars are getting the most out of the drivers anymore.
I 100% agree. I think if something happens in Imola that we have with Yuki, he at least should be limping, you know?
Okay, whoa. That is not what I was saying. That is not what I was saying at all. He's kidding. Do not cancel us. He's kidding. I am saying more specifically that I think the cars are safe enough to where a crash can happen, and most of the time the drivers will walk away completely scotch-free.
I was just
right?
joking. I was just joking.
I know.
I know what you're trying to say.
I now need to clarify because people are going to take that and run with it in their brain. No, but I think that because the cars are so safe when they do hit the wall, right? If crashes still happen, and we see them happen, and the cars are so big and they're so well designed, and the suits are so good now to where fires and everything that can happen is typically a non-problem besides a financial issue. So because of that, let's make the cars a little harder to drive. I want to see some more skill that, you know, goes into the actual steering aspect. Right now, it really is follow the racing line specifically as possible, right? But there was just more difference in the way drivers used to drive before. Like, there just used to be more diversity, right? We couldn't have an Ayrton Senna racing against a Michael Schumacher in driving style anymore because the only thing they do differently is maybe take more curb than other people, right? Right. And or some people like oversteer, some people like understeer. Like there is still that aspect because they are still technological, you know, and there's such a minimal difference. And I do think the sport's in a decent place right now. I just would like to see a bit more aggressiveness on the cars. I want the cars to be a bit more aggressive.
I think it comes down to the cars are over-regulated, which tightens up the field a lot, which is theoretically better, but at the same time it's not because you're just so tight on everything that you have to do that it's less personality in a way. We're now at a point where it's just like there's what
I was gonna say, we had a point in Formula One where there was a 6-wheel F1 car.
Exactly, like,
and that car was pretty quick too. Like, it wasn't bad.
Thank God it was banned though, because it was really ugly.
It was really ugly. No, I'm happy we got rid of that. But like,
it had,
there
like,
used to be
at the back.
It was so bad. But like, we used to see like
new inventions. Yeah, like the X-wings.
We saw Braun GP, right? come in and they just nailed it because they got that that system completely right in their car, and like stuff like that doesn't happen anymore because everything is just so done to a T. Now, obviously, we still see some stuff like that. Like McLaren has nailed their cooling system, which nobody can seem to figure out how they do it.
Tire water
that Zach Brown was drinking. That's clearly the solution. But no, it feels. I'd like more personality in the cars. I guess we're just having a big conversation about what's wrong with F1 because the Monaco Grand Prix is so boring. It brings a lot of these issues to light in conversation nowadays. I am happy they're shrinking the cars ever so slightly for the next year's regulations. I'm excited to see what they look like. I would like to see them shrink it again in the next regulation change as well. And I'd like to see just a bit more freedom. Let's let the cars be a bit more unique. I want to see
more aggression, not so many curves. Make them more boxy. Don't make them so cloudy. They're very, very round. And I know it's great for aerodynamic.
I would
but
love like the 2010 F1 cars. Bring that back.
Please.
Bring that back.
Please.
Like, there's a reason we still glorify the cars from the fucking 80s. You would think like our technology, we'd look at those like, oh, look at those rubbish. The fucking old McLaren MP4 is the most beautiful F1 car ever built. I think it's gorgeous.
Sure.
And it's like, I want to look at these cars and go, damn, these are beautiful. I don't really look at them like that anymore. I'm never like, damn. No. And maybe it's a nostalgia thing. Maybe it's because I wasn't alive, and so I kind of glorify that era that I wasn't there for. And maybe I take this for granted. Maybe when I grow old, my nephews will be like, oh my God, you got to watch that car and that driver. Maybe that will happen. But I just don't think these cars have I'm going to use this word very sarcastically, the aura that they used to have on the track.
Don't
I know,
do
sorry.
that, mate.
Sorry, mate. My bad. But yeah, no, we kind of started and ended with conversations on problems with Monaco and the cars, and so
very depressive.
I guess
this time.
Very depressive pod. But it was. I mean, I'm happy with the outcome of the race as a McLaren fan, obviously.
100%.
As a Formula One fan, I'm happy that the championship's staying close. But just
we're having a blast right now. We're having an absolute blast.
We don't talk about it too much. I try to keep it under wraps, but we are McLaren fans. Like through.
This is
this is like,
great. This is perfect. I'm very happy with my life right now. I was kicking my feet after the race.
Yeah. Lando winning Monaco is something I wouldn't have believed would have happened years ago. So I am happy about that.
Just happy he made turn one. I thought he was gonna bin it into the wall. I would have cried.
Stressing.
I would actually cried.
I was stressing. Because I thought Leclerc had him for a second when he locked his wheels.
I was eating and I almost choked when it started because I was like, no.
That's funny. That's funny as fuck. Yeah. All right. Well, I think we've covered some good ground today. I think
so too.
Covered all of our bases, as they would say in baseball. We have Spain coming up this week. We should be back at you with some predictions for the Spain Grand Prix, and then a review for that as well, and then a little bit of a break before the next, because we'll be done with the triple header for now. Thank you guys all for listening to this episode of the Pitlane Pals Formula One podcast. If you did enjoy, make sure you follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, all the places that you can find us. We're on every platform imaginable. And make sure you catch us for the Spain race this weekend. We'll be back again. So, thank you and goodbye.
Goodbye.